Good afternoon, my friends. Welcome to our New Testament challenge. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some thoughts from the fourth chapter of the book of 1 Corinthians, Paul's first letter to the church at Corinth, chapter 4. So, Paul is still talking about leadership. In the first couple of chapters, he talked about him and Apollos and Peter and the divisions that come from that. Who's leading this and who has this authority and all that. And so here he continues to talk about authority and who has it, who does not have it. He talks about what does that authority look like within the life of the church as apostles. They have certain rights as those who lead, and he talked about this. He says, those who share the gospel have the right to earn their living from it. He says, I have chosen not to exert that right. He worked on his own. He had a second job that paid, and he also had people that supported him. He says, I chose not to, so that wouldn't be anything that would disqualify me from sharing leadership in this context. And so he talks about the apostles. He talks about, as leaders, you just got to be careful with that you do not become arrogant as a leader in the midst of this. He says, we are fools for the sake of Christ, but you're wise. He kind of plays himself down, and those who have this leadership down, he says, yeah, it may be good. He may look at it and say, wow, they've got this position. But he said, there's a lot that you don't see, a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And he says, I want to make sure you understand that. And then he says, the last part of chapter 4 talks about fatherly admonition. He says, you've got lots of brothers and sisters in Christ. You've got lots of guardians, but really not too many fathers. And he says, think about a father. What does a father do? A father guides and directs their children. A father loves their children, but also a father also disciplines their children. And so Paul, this is one of the things I admire most about Paul, is that in his letters he both cherishes them, lifts them up, but also confronts and chastises them for where they have fallen, for where they have wandered. And so he says, I am your spiritual father, and so I have this authority, I have this right to chastise you as needed. There are some of you that thinks I'm not going to be back, and so I don't have that authority. You're not here. We'll listen to whatever we want. He says, no, I do. I'm the one who founded that. I'm the one who planted this church. I'm the one who brought you the gospel in the first place. So I have this authority to make these decisions, to call these folks out on this. And that's tough. It's tough to be able to say that, and tough to be able to say it while maintaining the love and the relationship that you have with the church. Really, only someone who has shown that love first is able to do the tough love later. And so think about your relationships. Think about the people. Think about your teachers and leadership. Do we... and a lot of times we don't. Do we honor and respect our leadership? What does that look like nowadays in the biblical sense? Maybe we don't even want to go farther out into the community, but maybe let's just talk about the church itself. What does honor and respect mean? And then what kind of responsibilities do your leadership have to lift up and to discipline the life of the church, the people in the life of the church. This was tough. I got to give it to Paul for this. This is tough, but it's something to think about in relationship to our community of faith, because a good relationship, a good father, like you said, both builds up their child and disciplines their child, so that the goal is not simply to make them, you're wrong, you're right, whatever it is. The goal is to form them in such a way that when they live on their own, when they're out on their own, they're able to make the right decisions. So Paul was wanting to form the disciples in Corinth so that when he is not there, physically there, but also when he is gone, that they will have learned the lessons and will be able to live the life that they need to live as followers of Christ. So, something to think about today. Take care, my friends, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.